So let me share the screen. I'm going to share, see if you guys can see this. Okay, so this is Anguttara Nikaya 9.20, the Velama Sutta. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's park. Then the householder Anathapindika approached the Blessed One, paid homage to him, and sat down to one side. The Blessed One asked him, "Are alms given in your family, householder?" Alms are given in my family, Bhante, but they consist of broken rice accompanied by rice gruel. This is what we would call in India kanji. And it's usually given for people when they need to recover or are convalescing from some sickness. It's easy on the digestion. When I was in Kerala and I was at this Ayurvedic center, one of the things that they give you to drink for most of the day is this kanji. So it's supposed to be nourishing and good for the system. Anyway, if householder one gives alms, coarse or excellent, and one gives disrespectfully, gives inconsiderately, does not give with one's own hand, gives what should be discarded, gives without a view of future consequences, then wherever the result of that gift is produced for one, one's mind does not incline towards the enjoyment of superb food, nor the enjoyment of superb clothing, nor toward the enjoyment of superb vehicles, nor toward the enjoyment of whatever is superb among the five objects of sensual pleasure. Also, one's children and wives, and one's slaves, servants, and workers, we don't have that nowadays, do not want to listen to one, do not lend an ear, do not apply their minds to understand. For what reason? Just this is a result of actions that are done disrespectfully. So here the Buddha is giving something very important in terms of instruction to a lay person, to a householder. We have to understand the cultural context in which the Buddha was living and why he was instructing the way he was instructing. You see, most people during that time in ancient India were concerned with getting to heaven, getting to meet with the devas, meeting Brahma, becoming, filled with riches and gold and ornaments and vehicles, in this case, chariots and things like that. So their minds were always towards that. And what the Buddha here is saying is that there is a way in which we give, but if we give in a way that is disrespectful and inconsiderate, and what that means is, first and foremost, you're not giving mindfully. You don't realize, as he says, gives what should be would be discarded, gives without a view of future consequences. So when you give to the best of your ability, whatever you can give, right? So this is here's the other thing. It says, does not give with one's own hand. This can be understood broadly. One is, of course, when you are directly giving to someone, like a monk or a teacher, you give with both hands because it's respectful and it shows that you're mindful and you're aware of the value that you've received in terms of the teachings or in terms of what you are offering because of the merit that you will receive and what this means for the person that you're giving as well. Sometimes what happens is you can't give directly. So it's not just about giving with your hand. It's about you having a direct sort of intention to give, right? It's not that you are being forced to give. It's not like you are like thinking about giving and you're not so sure whether you should give or not. There should be a one-pointed intention to give. And giving means, giving to the Sangha, giving to the poor, giving to the needy, giving to those who require it. And so one of the things that I do personally is whatever I receive in the form of dana for my teachings, or in the form of fees for my, consultations, private consultations. I always make it a point, once everybody else gets their share, because there are people who manage and there are other things that are going on that are directly related to what I do, then whatever is left over, I always just give 10% off the top, just 10%. And so that could mean anything. That could mean a few $100. That could mean a couple $1,000. It doesn't really matter. But the idea here is you have a direct intention that I will give a portion of this towards the Sangha, or towards building a center, or towards supporting a particular teacher, or whatever it might be. So the only reason I use 10% is because that's the way I grew up learning about it. For those of you who've been in a Christian household or Jewish household, you'll know this, which is, my parents would do this all the time. I grew up in a Catholic school and I was brought up there early on in my life. And my mom was religiously Catholic, and she would always give 10% of what was received over on that week, at least 10%. And so my parents kind of instilled that in me, which is no matter what you do, always give at least 10%. So I say 10% is a good minimum, and that's what I generally give. And I might give more when required. And how do I give? I can't necessarily give directly to people with my own hands, but I have people in India who know what the monks require. And this person, for example, he manages everything from preparing or having people prepare the meals for the monks, to buying new robes or acquiring new things for the monks, whatever is required for the monastery and things like that. So all I do is I trust in him and I send him my 10%, and then he does what needs to be done, right? So if you can do that, that's great. It's not about just you directly giving. It's however you can give with one pointed intention. And of course, here the Buddha says that with regards to the future consequences, you have, you don't incline towards being able to enjoy your life. There's something wonderful about the generosity, because when you give, there is such a great degree of contentment that you feel. You feel uplifted. Your mind is full of joy. Your mind is full of happiness, and you realize joy in giving, joy in sharing what you have. And the more you do that, the easier it is for your mind to actually fully receive whatever it is you receive as well. And so, he says enjoyment of superb food, superb vehicles, superb clothing, and all of these things. But, that's relative. It's not like because you're going to be giving whatever to a monk now, you're going to receive a BMW or something like that. It just means that wherever you are and whatever you receive to that level, to that extent, you're able to fully enjoy whatever it is that you receive. And in the last part, he says, one's children and wives, one's slaves, servants, and workers. Well, we live in a different world now. So it's more about, there is a greater degree of communication with you and the people in your life, your partners, your spouses, your friends. If you have a business, your employees, if whatever it is that you're able to communicate freely with them, and you're able to be heard and understood. And so he says, if householder, one gives alms, whether coarse or excellent. Again, doesn't matter what kind of gift you give. It's about the intention. One gives respectfully, one gives considerately, gives one with one's own hand, gives what would not be discarded. In other words, whatever you're going to give, it's something that you give because it's valuable. It's of value to the other person. Gives with a view of future consequences. You know that there will be benefit and fruit from this. Then wherever the result of that gift is produced for one, one's mind inclines towards the enjoyment of superb food, toward the enjoyment of superb clothing, toward the enjoyment of superb vehicles, toward the enjoyment of whatever is superb among the 5 objects of sensual pleasure. Also, people in your life want to listen to you. Where did we go? They lend a ear and apply their minds to understand. For what reason? Just this is the result of actions that are done respectfully. So it's not about just giving, it's about whatever you do in a respectful and mindful manner as well. In the past, householder, there was a Brahmin named Velama. He gave such a great alms offering as this: 84,000 golden bowls filled with silver, 84 silver bowls filled with gold, 84,000 bronze bowls filled with bullion, 84,000 elephants. I don't know if there were that many elephants back in the day, but okay. With golden ornaments, golden banners, covered with nets of gold thread, 84,000 chariots with upholstery of lion skins, tiger skins, leopard skins, and saffron-dyed blankets with golden ornaments, golden banners covered with nets of gold thread, 84,000 milk cows. That I can believe. There's a cow on every corner in India. With jute feathers and bronze pails, 84,000 maidens. Why would you give a maiden? That doesn't make sense, but okay. Adorned with jeweled earrings, 84,000 couches. Wow, that's a big furniture store. Spread with rugs, blankets, and covers, with excellent coverings of antelope hide, with canopies and red bolsters. Yada, 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 yada. Okay. How much more of food and drink, snacks, meals, refreshments, and beverages? It seemed to be flowing like rivers. You know, whenever you see this amount, 84,000, that's not a real number, right? That's just like a lot. He gave a lot. He gave abundantly. Like when you hear, and 500 people became arhats, it's just like, that's a lot of people. So it's not, because the amount 84,000 is used in many different Indian traditions, and it's just to mean like that's a lot. You might think, householder, he was someone else, the Brahmin Velama, who on that occasion gave that great alms offering. But you should not look at it in such a way. I myself was the Brahmin Velama who on that occasion gave that great alms offering. Now, householder, at that alms offering, there was no one worthy of offerings, no one who purified the offering. This is also very important to understand. There's a concept in India, which is that somebody should be worthy of offering. And this can be strange to the Western mindset or to the non-Indian mindset. But the idea here is that somebody, you know, you should give freely to everyone, definitely. But there is also this thing of, if you give food to somebody who doesn't need it, why would you do that? In other words, you give to somebody who actually requires what it is that you're giving. So I gave you this example of my person in India who I give, you know, this money to, and he will utilize it in the way that it is required. So he won't just go haphazardly buying food and 84,000 elephants and things like that. He will actually go and see what is actually required, right? And where does it need to go? So that's one understanding. You just don't give in that way. You understand what is required and you give accordingly. So there was no one worthy of offerings, no one who purified the offerings. Now, this is a different way of looking at it, giving to the Sangha, giving to a noble person. Even more fruitful than the great alms offering that the Brahmin Velama gave, would it be to feed one person accomplished in view? That means one person who has gotten super mundane right view. Even more fruitful than that, the great alms offering that the Brahmin Velama gave, and feeding 100 persons accomplished in view. Would it be to feed one Sriturna? So this is, now getting to the attainments. Likewise, it would be even more fruitful than the great alms offering that he gave, and feeding 100 once-returners would it be to give or feed one non-returner. Even more fruitful than that is feeding 100 non-returners would be to be feeding one arahant. Now here's interesting. So it goes, even more fruitful than feeding 100 arahants would it be to feed one Pacceka Buddha. I don't know where you're going to find one like that, but even more fruitful than feeding 100 Pacceka Buddhas would it be to feed the Tathagat, the Arahant, the perfectly enlightened one. Would it be to feed the Sangha of bhikkhus headed by the Buddha? So he says, it's not just me, the Buddha, but the Sangha. Would it be to build a dwelling dedicated to the Sangha of the four quarters? So this is also wonderful. Would it be for one with the mind of confidence to go to refuge to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and Sangha? Now we're getting somewhere, right? So it's the beginning of the path is generosity, is to offer and to give to those in need, to give to those who require things. But the thing is, you don't know anyone specifically who might be a stream mentor. You don't know anyone who might specifically be a once returner and all of this other things. So just give freely with the intention that may this offering be of some level of service to the being that I'm giving. You give to dogs, you give to cats, give to cows. You start from there, give to children, give to the aged, give to the sick, give to the poor, give to the needy, give to anybody that you can give to. You don't know who one person is. You really don't know what is their level of attainment. You don't know what is, their level of mind. But because you give with a purified intention, that offering also becomes purified. And then, of course, it says giving to the Sangha. Right? We don't have a Buddha to give to, but we give and dedicate to the Sangha. We build quarters for the Sangha. But beyond that, now it gets really good, which is if we have and take refuge in our mind and hearts in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. What does that mean when we say a mind of confidence? We have seen for ourselves how this path works because we have walked it. So you need the generosity to be able to walk the path, to find benefit from the path, and thereby establish experiential confidence, realizing that indeed the Buddha is the personification of what is possible in terms of liberation and freedom. Indeed, the Dhamma is the realization of what is impersonal and what is beyond that, which is Nibbana. And indeed, there is the Sangha who actually continue this process in whatever way they can. But more than that, we have a community of like-minded people who meditate together, like how we do here every Sunday. And so he says, would it be for one with the mind of confidence to undertake the 5 precepts, to abstain from the destruction of life, to abstain from taking what is not given, to abstain from wrongful sexual activity, to abstain from false speech, to abstain from liquor, wine, and intoxicants, the basis for heedlessness. Now it gets interesting. So now the generosity helps us see the benefit of keeping the precepts. And our mind gets even further uplifted. And when it gets even further uplifted, our mind feels relief. Our mind is able to get easily collected and thereby start to go into the practice of samadhi. And now he says, even more fruitful would it be to develop a mind of loving kindness, even for the time it takes to pull a cow's udder. Not sure how long that takes, but it's probably very quick. So just having a moment of loving kindness is worth more than all that other stuff that the Buddha talked about. So don't worry, you don't need to go to the shopping mall and find 84,000 elephants. Just develop loving kindness. And this is the greater of all the other generosity and everything else that you can do, because it's through this loving kindness that you experience non-ill will, through compassion, which then comes naturally, that you cultivate the non-cruelty and you're continuing to walk the path. It's through this loving kindness that the karma that you experience starts to become expunged, starts to diminish. And in that moment, whatever limited karma is there starts to get extinguished. And here's something interesting. He says, even more fruitful householder than the great alms offering that Velama gave, and feeding one person accomplished in view, 100 persons accomplished in view, a once returner, 100 once returners, a non-returner, 100,000 non-returners, an arahat, 100 non-returners, an arahat feeding 100 arahats, feeding one Pacheka Buddha, and feeding 100 Pacheka Buddhas, and feeding the Tathagat, the perfectly enlightened one, and feeding the Sangha of bhikkhus headed by the Buddha, and building a dwelling dedicated to the Sangha of the four quarters, and for one with a mind of confidence to go to for refuge to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, and for one with a mind of confidence to undertake the precepts, and for one to develop the mind of loving kindness, even for the time it takes to pull a cow's udder. Would it be to develop a perception of impermanence just for the time of a finger snap? What does this mean? The perception of impermanence. So you have cultivated sila, you have cultivated generosity, you have cultivated sila, you have cultivated samadhi, and now you have panya, and you see for yourself the conditioned existence in every moment. This is what it means to be able to be mindful of the Four Noble Truths in every moment, to see the conditionality of every experience, to realize that every experience is conditioned, therefore liable to change, which means it's unstable, and it's impermanent. Therefore, not worth holding on to, because ultimately it will lead to disappointment and disillusionment. Therefore, it's not me, mine, or myself. Therefore, I experience equanimity. Therefore, I experience disenchantment. Therefore, I experience dispassion. And therefore, I experience liberation. So it's not about noting, oh, this is impermanent, this is impermanent, this is arising and passing away. It's about the realization and seeing for yourself and disengaging from every experience, from every sensory and mental experience, from the viewpoint of a self, from the standpoint of this is me, this is mine, this is myself. It is basically in the seeing, there's only the seen. In the hearing, there's only the heard. In the sensing, there's only the sensed. In the cognizing, there's only the cognized. When you have this way of experiencing life, that is greater than all the other things. And this is what the Buddha is referring to. And this is the step-by-step process. Develop generosity, uplift the mind. Develop sila, silence the mind, or at least start to collect the mind. Develop samadhi, experience the otherworldly, super-mundane joy and equanimity, and thereby experience panya and be liberated. So, any questions?
Delson, would you remind me what panya is?
Wisdom.
In other words, there's no shopping mall for any of these.
No, it's inside. No questions?
Hey, Delson, I have a question.
Yes.
So, since giving is so great and so satisfying, why does that concept why isn't it on every street corner? What has been lost? What has been missed that it hasn't taken hold of just everyday ways of being?
You know, it's so interesting because you don't find it just in the Buddha Dhamma. You find it in every tradition. And It's not just the Eastern traditions. You even look into the Bible, for example, it talks about, and it's the only time when God says in the Bible, he says, this is the only time you can test me. If you are generous and you give a portion of whatever you receive, I will make it worth your while. He says that. So it's like we've lost it because somehow we've been conditioned to take, right? It's the perspective that has been taken on because of the way that people have started to become accustomed to, which is like, it's a dog eat dog world out there, and you have to do whatever you can to make as much money as you can. And greed is good, as Gordon Gekko would say in the 80s. And so people have that sort of scarcity mindset. Like, I need to be able to provide for my family. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. You want to be able to provide for your family. But if you were to really test this principle out, and you are generous, there's not a moment when you won't feel satisfied. And there's not a moment when you are not taken care of. And that requires a certain level of faith in some sense. It requires a certain level of falling off the cliff and saying, okay, I'm going to give this portion and we'll see what happens. So I think we have the cultivation of this amongst few people in the population, because not a lot of people, are accustomed to this or exposed to this kind of situation. Yeah, look, somebody says just being generous with anyone makes me feel good. It's a win-win. What about the intention behind giving? Well, the intention is this will benefit the other person. It will benefit me as well. And so I give with loving kindness. Oh, okay. I didn't know about that. 7 types of intentions. Maybe we'll do that next time. Yes, Anne.
I also think generosity is not just, I think it happens in animals, and I see it in children without them being told they should be generous. A cat will bring you a dead bird, or a child will give you, here, you want to eat my candy? They'll take it out of their mouth to give to you so you can have a taste.
Yeah.
I think generosity may be one of the good qualities that human nature has. We're not originally evil,
That's right. I agree.
We have qualities in ourselves that might get buried by culture, but I don't think it's a foreign thing, generosity.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and that's a good point. Even animals do that. Animals can do that. So it's really getting back to our true nature by being generous and realizing there's enough to go around everywhere for everyone, for every being.
Hey, Delson, it's kind of interesting that I'm looking at the sutta from Bhikkhu Sujato and the one that you just read, and they're very different.
Oh, okay.
And Sujato leaves out the second part, where if you are following precepts and you're taking refuges and you give to somebody, this is purifying the gift. And
Yes.
this is even better, way better. And that's left out in this one here. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. This is a case where it really is purifying the gift by the giver. And,
Right. Well,
the other part is that that it can just be anybody who gives to an arahat or anything like that. But if they're also following the path, this makes the gift so much more powerful.
interesting.
Yeah. Wow. The other thing I noticed was, I have never seen this before, and I never really thought about it, is when we give, we're told that don't think about the future. Don't think about what you're going to get. Don't think about anything. Well, here it says, think about the future. Think
Yeah.
about the consequence. Rejoice in the consequence. Rejoice that you're doing things that are going to make you happy. And instead of, and the other, he does say, if you're not thinking about it, you're not doing the right thing here.
Mm.
And if you do think about it, then you will enjoy in the future all those gifts that are coming to you as a result of this.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. So enjoy. When you give something, enjoy it and be happy about it, because when you get that gift back at some future point, then you can enjoy it,
Exactly.
So,
And that too, many more fold,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, this is good.
Well, somebody has a comment from the outside
Mm.
of the realm of Zoom. Yes.
Oh, live.
So, looking at what it said in the Sukha about what does it mean for the giver to purify the gift and the receiver to purify the gift. Trying to understand that. Then just observe something itself and that is give to someone they think that purifies the gift.
Mm.
It's trying to think about someone next to me. Receiver.
Mm.
Good receivers, and I think that because then
Right.
purification it's more than that. That's more.
Yeah, seeing the upliftedness in the mind of the person and yourself is part of it. Yeah, but then I think if we do everything with loving kindness, that just takes care of everything. Giving with loving kindness, receiving with loving kindness, just as a broad general guideline. Just like, hey, I'm happy to give this to you. May it give you whatever you need. May you have it in good health and happiness, and at the same time, you're feeling the joy of it. So. And you had raised your hand?
Well, I was thinking about two things, and this last comment might have touched on it about the generosity of receiving, because I don't know, some people have, and in the course of my life, I've had trouble receiving. So, and also being thwarted with my generosity, you want to give and someone goes, no. So there's a generosity in receiving. And then I think about, and David, you might recall this, it's somewhere in our, the kingly giving, the queenly giving, the poorly giving, the giver and the receiver, the qualities of both have a determination on the merit of it. And I don't recall the source of that information.
I think that's probably in the Majjhima Nikaya. That's probably the Dakkina Vibhanga Sutta, which is somewhere there.
Mm.
Yeah.
142.
There you go. 142.
The kingly and the queenly, though, it comes from somewhere else, and it's on the Access to Insight site, and I don't remember the actual. Yeah, it's a little different. It's a different interpretation, but it's the same thing. It defines the levels of giving.
Mm. Interesting. So, anyone else? Okay, I guess we can share some merit. That's also giving, by the way, sharing merit. Don't ask me how that works, but somehow it works.
Yeah. Okay. I've got to get out of here. This, okay. All right.
So when you share merit, do it with loving kindness. Do it with the right intention. When you say these words, really feel it. This is how you share merit. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit that we have thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty power, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. All right, thank you, everyone. I'll see you around.